It is 10:04 a.m. on Friday, June 2nd. I call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. This is a special non-voting session.
There you go. You're fixing to go the other way.
Okay. Let's take up the first item, which is
That'll make it
discussions
free.
with Pat Stacy regarding the phased-in project.
Is that
It's Pat Stacy Invisible.
I don't believe we have one.
is she zooming?
Is there anyone on Zoom, Brendan?
Not that I see. She didn't phase in.
Mike says there's no sound.
Will, have you been in the cookies this morning?
No sound?
Jim,
Yeah.
We're going to pause a second while we get technical difficulties figured out.
you were familiar with this
Phased in?
concept?
We're good.
We're good? Okay.
Yeah, good now. That's what it says.
Yeah, Phased In is a program that is designed to help foster kids who are aging out of foster care to do transition into adulthood and equip them with the tools and resources to be successful as they transition.
Is there a work program associated with it?
It's a good question that we can ask Pat Stacy when we reschedule the time. So, okay, we'll hopefully we'll have this on a later agenda.
We heard a little something about that. I'm trying to remember who was telling us about it.
It was with the Foster Parents Association, I
It
think.
was mentioned.
Or the,
Yeah.
Okay. So that moves us on to item number 2, discussions on amending Core Health's agreement to increase psychiatric mid-level provider hours and increasing the compensation rate. I'm going to go ahead and ask Todd Murphy, the co-founder and president of Core Health, to come up and lead our discussions.
Good morning. Thank you, Judge and Commissioners. And thanks for the opportunity to come up and present this morning. So the item, the topic of discussion is our psychiatric mid-level nurse practitioner. We had Andy in place for a while, and she just recently left the state. We have been contracted at 24 hours a week, and as you see in the chart that I passed out to y'all, we have grossly outgrown that need. The jail here is a very busy site. There's a lot going on, as you know, as you're reading, as we've discussed in some of our other conversations. Mental health is a growing trend. It's not slowing down, and this only substantiates that. But you see our number of appointments, our chart reviews, all the things that we're doing here on a daily and weekly basis. And again, it's busy. It's a busy site. So we're talking about 3 things specific to this one position today: increasing the psychiatric nurse mid-level providers' hours from 24 hours to 40 hours to help substantiate and fill this need. 2, increase the compensation from the previously contracted $85 an hour to $100 an hour, and we know that's much more competitive to the market. It's not where the hospitals and agencies are paying currently, but it does get us closer. And then the third thing that we did was we enhanced the relief factor in the overtime rate from 5% to 7%, which is, I think, is an $8,000 increase. And what that does is that helps us fill the void for when there's a vacancy, when we have to use agency, when we have to bring someone from somewhere else. And again, as you see in this, there's been quite a bit of overtime over the last 8 months in this position alone.
So were you finished with that?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to ask some questions. The first thing, and this may be an obvious dumb question, but I excel in asking obvious and dumb questions. What does a psychiatric mid-level nurse practitioner do out at the jail?
Yeah, so that's not a psychiatrist; it's a mid-level provider, and basically, he or she, they provide our sick calls. They meet with the patients. They diagnose, they treat, they serve them. They do all the things. So it's not quite a physician. It's not a doctor, not an MD, not a psychiatrist, but It's like a mid-level as if you were to go to your local clinic.
Sure, so that, I mean, I know what a nurse practitioner does in the general population. The psychiatric one, though, is providing the same services, but just for mental health issues?
Specific to mental health, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Behavioral health.
Is that a physician's assistant level? Is that what we're talking?
It can be. This one's so you have a physician's assistant and you have a nurse practitioner. This is a nurse practitioner, but both of those designations are mid-level providers.
And Todd, which page am I looking at to see how this affects the current agreement with Total Dollar?
Yes, sir. So I provided you with quite a bit of information here. Page 3 is our current coverage plan, the one that we kicked off in March 1 of last year. Current coverage plan.
What
coverage
does it
plan.
look like when
That's
you say page?
165,000?
Page 3.
Yes, sir. 165. And that's labor only. Then if you turn over to page 4, that's our transparent pricing model, and you see where that 165 transfers over to the top, and you have the total at the bottom for that position only of 187,965 annually, and that includes the management fee and then team appreciation and all those things, taxes, benefits, and then you have on page 5 our proposed coverage matrix, taking that mid-level provider from $85 an hour to $100 even, increasing the relief factor and overtime to 7% from the previous 5%. That total with personnel only is at $256 annually. To give that position a total annualized price of cost factor of $317,197. The difference, the delta between the current model and what we're proposing is $124,232
Annually?
Annually, yes, sir.
So that's that much of an increase to our current cost.
Yes, sir, for this position only, right? Because now we enhanced, now we're talking about benefits, where before we didn't. And, the relief factor and overtime didn't kick it up much, but. yes,
Can
sir.
we pay you monthly?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
And right now, this contract started what date?
March 1 of 22.
So it's
March
a-
1 of 22, and it's a 2-year?
It's 5, okay.
It's a 5-year? Was it
I
a
believe-
5-year lock?
I believe it's a
I
3-1.
believe- Huh?
Is it 3-1-1?
Yes, it's like a 3-year contract with the opportunity to extend twice.
All right.
And so $10,000 a month increase roughly.
Yes, sir.
How much of this time is going to be at juvenile?
That's mostly on an as needed basis, but she is going over there. Where Andy was, but the position's vacant right now.
Because I know that's one of the complaints we're hearing out of juvenile is that they're not getting the care that they need to be having, so.
Okay, we haven't heard that from Kirk yet.
So I think there was an issue maybe a month and a half ago, and it was because as part of the contract, someone is dedicated to juvenile. I think everyone understands that's not someone over there all the time.
Right.
But they have to be at Cole.
Right. And Brandy, being new, indicated she had not been made aware that that was the case.
Okay.
Since that conversation, I don't know if you were a part of that or if someone else was a part of that. I don't think there have been any problems since then.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure that moving forward, everybody was on the same page with over at the law enforcement center to know if juvenile calls and they need someone's got to be available.
Right. We're in pretty constant contact with Director Wolf, so I assume he'll tell us. But yeah.
And Todd, how does this play in, I'm just behind the curve, but I know, Judge, you had mentioned about Judge Kennedy pursuing the
competency restoration.
Competency, is there a factor here that this brings to the table that allows us maybe some additional?
This would be a separate, completely, this is part of the current contract, and the jail restoration program waits, and again, it's just being talked about right now, there's nothing in front of anybody, but that would be a completely separate program.
Yeah, that's correct. They are separate, but they are interlocked, clearly, with behavioral health. So in order to make it to the jail-based restoration competency program, it goes through this position first. We met a couple of days ago, and we are talking about how some of our current services can serve and feed that new program. So there are some savings with that.
Okay. And let's say that we're not competitive, Todd, and we've got gaps in here from time to time, just personnel gaps. The agreement doesn't take that into consideration if you're gapped.
Yeah, the agreement states that basically, as the market continues to evolve, because none of us predicted COVID, none of us can predict where the market is going to go. I mean, you guys are facing the same issues in all industries, but the market basically says that if there's a gap in the market, that we have the ability and the right to sit down and talk. And if that's something that if we're not able to fill a position for a long period of time, I'll go out, we'll find comps, we'll find, get the hospital comp rates and agency and all the things. We'll bring those to you, and it all lives and breathes with transparency.
Right.
And so if that were to happen, then we'll sit down and have a conversation and see where that goes.
How long has the position been vacant right now?
Just about a month. I think less than a month, actually.
And y'all just been filling that in
With our providers, yes, sir. Yeah, we have a team of flex travel nurses, and to include mental health, and so we're filling that in with our people. Annie went to the state. She's always wanted to work for the state, so she's the state's now.
I know, too, Todd, that opening very soon downtown here, we've got a, group, I guess, a mental health group opening. They concentrate on a lot of juvenile work as well. And, that could be in gapped periods of time. I wondered about even contracting. I mean, you could pull a team like that in, especially if they had.
Sure. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we had our meeting specific to the jail-based restoration to competency meeting the other day, and there were some people in the room who we engaged with who could also help serve that. And and I made a statement in that meeting the other day that we don't have it all figured out. We can't do it all alone. And so I said, everyone in this room, this is the group, this is the community. We all need to do this together. And we had some pretty nice conversations afterwards, and but that's really you're spot on with that.
On the proposed pricing model, there's two things I'm not sure that I understand. Currently, paid time off is 0, and under the new model, where now paid time off is included in there.
You maybe put my glasses on, Judge.
Sorry. It's at the bottom, the last gray line, and the full page, the full width section.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because as a part-timer, Annie was not eligible for PTO.
Okay.
Because she was part-time. And as part of the full-time benefits, going from part-time to full-time, PTO is part of that benefit structure.
Okay, and then down below that, currently we're paying, or it's currently included as a portion of health insurance. That's going up in this new model. My guess is because that's figured just based on the percentage of the pay out, but that doesn't make sense to me in the way that most companies and organizations typically pay for health insurance.
Yeah, I can get our director of finance on the line right
Okay.
now. Would you mind?
Sure, no, that'd be great. And if you can't, that's a question you can answer later.
Yeah, she's on standby, so. And I'm calling Krista Montgomery. She's our director of finance.
Is that the bottom line? They're in after
This is Krista.
Hey, Chris, it's Todd.
Yeah.
Hey, so I'm in court now, and the question is specific to insurance. I'm sorry, to health insurance under the payroll taxes.
Yes.
Those numbers are quite different in the current model versus the proposed model. Can you explain why the payroll taxes would be that much different? You know, going from 24 hours to 40 hours. Why would those hours be so different? I mean, why would that value be so different?
I don't understand why the payroll taxes would change the health insurance.
The health insurance.
Yeah.
The rate is,
The difference in the health insurance is, first of all, it's calculated based on a formula that I developed from historical patterns of who chooses. We don't know when we sign up, when we do these proposals, who is going to end up signing up for 401k matching or insurance. So what I did is I went through historically and did a calculation as far as how many people are participating in health insurance and 401k, and that's where the formula comes in. We don't know that this new provider is going to participate in the health insurance for the 401k. This is just a formula that we put in there in case. It's not the full value of what the 401k matching or the health insurance would be if they actually chose to take out insurance. It is simply a guesstimate of this is what, or not a guesstimate, it's a formula based on historical participation.
So it's not on the average, it's on historical participation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a pretty robust benefit package where we actually contribute 75% of the team members' chosen plan. And so we have a lot of them who choose the higher end.
Sure, and I guess if I'm understanding her correctly, since y'all aren't making, when you make a proposal like this to a different entity, to Wichita County,
Right.
you're basing it around as a whole what the cost would be for the whole company based on historical usage. So, for example, if this new employee chooses not to participate in health insurance or 401k, that doesn't get minused out and returned to the county. Y'all keep that. But on the flip side, a person who does participate in health insurance or 401k matching is costing you actually a little more than what is reflected here on the page. Am I understanding that correct?
Correct, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I think given the rate of turnover nationwide, you know, with not just the healthcare market, but in all industries, if we were to look at all 320 of our team members in all of our sites, and we were to remove health benefits for some and add,
Sure.
it would be a nightmare.
It's an administrative nightmare. No, I didn't know that's how that worked, and I understand it now. Okay. Everyone, while Krista's on the phone, any other questions for her? Okay.
Thank you, Krista.
Thanks, Krista.
You're welcome.
So again, you know, there's a whole, I believe in transparency. I believe
Absolutely.
more is better for most people, I think. There's a whole lot here. But I think the meat and potatoes are really in this, showing the utilization and just showing how busy this jail is in this community. And really, if you look at the jail here, it's really a microcosm of what's happening in the community. We've got to do better with mental health, but this here is striking. And I have more copies. Would you
yeah, I'm
like?
gonna need it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it
when you,
is.
We can share.
Okay. Y'all have any other questions for Todd? Okay. I know that this is, so we've got this today. Take a look at it. May have some more questions, everyone may to follow up with.
Judge, would Lisa or Will have anything or comment?
Yeah. Do either of y'all have anything you wanna add?
I did, when we did the audit with detained, they actually sent Kim Howe on site. And one of the comments that she made during that discussion was that she was actually surprised that that mid-level provider for mental health was not a full-time position because of the amount of inmates that we do have that require mental health care. And that position being the one that prescribes all the medications and everything and does the chart reviews for those patients or inmates. And so she was actually really surprised that that wasn't a full-time position.
Todd, when y'all went out and got comps, or you may not have done that yet, I can't remember what you were saying. Would you mind providing those to us just to,
Sure.
I think it'd be good information to have.
Sure, what we do is we conduct a salary survey, and we actually contract with 3 salary survey providers because there's not one that's accurate. They're all over the board, but we do. We look at the local area, then we look at about an hour away.
Okay,
We can certainly do that.
okay. Thank you, I think that would be helpful.
Todd, can I, who's the contact, like if I could put this group that I was, and I don't even know the name, but can I put them in contact with somebody so there's at least correspondence?
Yes, sir. I'll send you the contact for Mary Zold. She's our director of operations.
Okay.
She's also an LCSW, and she sort of heads that program.
And I misunderstood, I guess, on the chamber, Judge, and you may have to get clarification for me. Todd's group was very active. I wanted them to be involved in the military affairs dialogue about finding jobs for military spouses.
Mhm.
And they tried to get in, and the chamber said, no, you can't come.
How long ago
And
was that?
It's just happened again the second time.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding the nature of the
Well,
dialogue.
and I don't know that it would be with I don't know that they would be in SMAC, but they'd be working with the chamber on their veteran or their military spouse initiative. Is that where the hang-up happened?
It's the last deal where the round table or something, the military round table coming from the chamber.
Okay.
And I just wanted them plugged in, so, because I know Phyllis told me she's gotten 2 from the base, and I thought, heck, we ought to have our finger in there too.
We would love to,
Ken.
yeah.
Okay.
We've also recently brought on a college outreach person. He is a veteran, and his whole function is to travel between our 4 states, go onto the bases, or go to the college, to the nursing schools, meet with those directors, present before the students, or meet with veterans or wives or whatever, and try to bring them in. But we would love to connect with veterans or their spouses.
We'll visit separately with you
Okay, thank you.
about that. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah. All right. Todd, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
All right, let's move to item number 3, discuss and review jail maintenance projects and work orders. Chief, you wanna?
Currently, we're just, again, there's no major problems at the jail.
Did we get filters installed at the?
As far as I'm aware, we have filters are all installed.
Okay.
Yeah. Will, would you tell us all collectively, you knew, and I know Lisa as well does, but a generator testing requirement, it was the load of the building versus the resistor test.
Yeah, we have to do a load test once a week. Correct, please.
So you have to do a non-load test once a week, and then during that month, you have to do a load test. So every month you do a load test, and then you do 3 non-load tests.
Okay, and the one I was telling Will about, Lisa, was there is a piece of equipment that certain companies can do, and it's built to, it's like, think about a skid behind a tractor at a tractor pull.
Mm-hmm.
It is designed to, at some point, shut that tractor down. And this very expensive piece of equipment can be hooked up to a generator and resisted until it caps out its power. So that there's a baseline mark when you have a new generator and it's running 100%.
It's a dyno.
Yes.
It's a dyno.
And they're very costly. But load, like you're doing, where you run the power in the jail, or then you just test the generator to run, they're not expensive at all. And that's what we wanted to make sure of, that we didn't have to utilize a resistance test, which is about $20,000 per test.
No, it's the same as the law
Okay.
enforcement center. That's the only jail requirement is to do those tests on them.
And I think that's why there's separate generators out there, because we would just have to test the generator for the jail when the jail's here.
Right.
Okay.
Not the building.
Right.
Generator.
Gotcha. That saves us a ton of money.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. It's just a load test.
Yeah. Okay.
And so,
There was no other major, just, regular PM maintenance stuff and fixing things as they break.
okay,
So, but, there's no major things going on. We are set to meet next week to, get the plan in action to replace the glass up front. So that should start off here pretty quick.
okay.
And Will, would you change anything on, you have a lot of activities on your secure gates coming in and out on the back, on the parking? Would you change anything about that?
We have changed the eyes already. The ones that were spec'd for the job did not last. Matter of fact, when Damien was out doing that front fence, he did some adjustments, but he said those are really holding up well for as many times we go in and out every day. So,
Well, back to the filter deal, how big a deal was that to get those changed out?
well, we actually had shooting going on that week, so we had to stop our shooting because they wouldn't get on the roof as long as we were shooting.
Makes sense.
Good idea.
But I think that they were able to do it within a week's time.
So I was just wondering, because that was kind of an there was a bunch of them.
There was
I just
500
wondered how big a
plus,
deal it was
yeah.
gonna be. So
I
what
think-
are we thinking now? We're doing that, what, every?
Well, that was recommended as quarterly.
Quarterly, so that's 4 times a year.
Yes, sir. But we've got, what, a couple $1 million worth of equipment sitting up there.
I know, yeah.
So,
it's
$20,000 a year to keep the filters changed on it. Be cheaper than replacing one unit.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on that item? Okay, item number 4, receive status report on salaries and overtime. Victor sent this 4:37 yesterday afternoon, so it should be in your.
Jail numbers look pretty steady
Yeah.
at 455.
I do have a question on that.
It
So-
was up to 489 this morning, I believe.
Oh,
Good grief, somebody have a party or what was it?
It's slow, it's summertime, it's been slowly
Okay.
gaining.
juvenile goes down, jail goes up.
That may age out too.
Yeah. On page 32,
Okay.
top right-hand corner where it shows the year-to-date on overtime, holiday, salary, and then we've got projected year-end original budget. Right now, our projected year-end has us over on both overtime and salary. How is that possible?
Well, you're paying more in overtime than you are in salary. You offset it with salary. Historically, that's where, and that's what we try to do is stop spending in other places where we have money left over in other lines to move everything towards the front.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So, but you know, you're paying more in overtime, and you're also paying more in retirement. Everything, you know, increases because instead of paying retirement on $1, now you're paying retirement on $2.
And that's reflected in the salary line item?
No.
It's in there, but I mean, it's the overall cost of everything, that all those lines go up over
All
time.
those extra lines do go up, so salary is just gross salary.
And I guess that's what I would understand
Yeah,
everything
and
else going
But
on.
on the flip side of that, we go down on healthcare. You know, we figured $9,500 a month for healthcare coverage, and we got 29 openings throughout the year. Well, you know, that's $290,000 you saved in healthcare.
That's
So-
true.
So, the salary line item, that just includes wages paid out in full-time, part-time, and whatever it is, salaries. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We've got 29 positions that aren't filled.
Filled.
And that has been pretty consistent, coming down a little bit, but pretty consistent for this year. Did we just, why would we've got 29 positions that aren't filled. Our salary number should be less than our expected.
But you've got 29 positions not filled. It takes you 42 positions in pay technically to cover those 29, because you know, we're saying you got time and a half to fill those 29.
Right, but that would be reflected in the
That
overtime
would be
number being
the
bigger.
But the base salary.
But the base salary would be less.
Can I interject a little bit here?
Yeah, please.
On page 32 that you're looking at?
Yes.
That's Department 560 that does not have 27 openings.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's step one. Step two is, the way the budget's set up is we have the salaries are budgeted into, you know, your regular salary line, but they also have these step plans and the,
certificate pay.
certificate.
But
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have to line
yeah.
up that
That's in
stuff.
another line, yes. The
Those
They'll be
supplemental.
budgeted somewhere else, so they're actually receiving that, so their salaries are actually over what we actually budgeted. It should budgeted so in a different section.
Okay. So that's a
Probably just
reporting
need to be
away
revised
that
into
the
here,
spreadsheet
so we
says.
can-
You really need to be
Numbers
paid
into that.
36 of 36 to see the long-term projected on the bottom down there.
There we go.
Where are you reading? 6 of 6, you said?
36.
Should be that here.
So when you have somebody working overtime, they're still making their base salary, and then you add the overtime on top of
They
that.
have on
So
top of it.
if you replace,
So we have 29 open positions.
yeah,
Technically, we're paying positions for 42 people.
yeah.
And
And the difference in this, and like, okay, if I'm 2 road hands short, then we don't spend money, but you're running a
We
24
have to-
hour,
we have to
24/7, that's the word.
We had to mandate it, and we are every day below what
Yeah.
we should be mandated.
And I was thinking the same thing the judge was, that we'd come down and wear it, but you don't when you're having to
Yeah.
cover.
If
And-
someone takes
yeah.
sick time or vacation time.
Yeah,
Or
I get you.
they're out because they're FMLA, that position has to be filled.
But Corey, is there on your projection sheet on 36, are you saying there's something not in there?
Well, I'm saying in the budgeted section of it is likely just the salary by positions added up to that.
But shouldn't we make that where it?
Well, that's why I said we can adjust that to where it's showing what our actual budget is and not just what we budgeted for salaries by line.
It's at the end of the year, it's our other lines that we don't use all of that goes to help make up the difference in the salary.
Right.
And
And that's where it comes to mind, Lisa we have to be smart in where we spend that money and try not to buy what we don't have to buy.
And we still may have a shortfall like we did last year.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that Corey, I guess this would be for Corey and Victor, just from the standpoint of being able to compare apples to apples, I think it would be helpful to have that included in that number.
We can
It's
make
not
it
too
happen.
difficult.
Now, if you want to throw an extra $1 million in overtime at the beginning of the year, it'll help things, but. I'm just-
Well, and honestly, that's part of the reason why I'm asking this,
Yeah.
because all of us have budget on the mind right
Yeah,
now.
sure.
But if we,
We budgeted $450,000, and we know that's eat up. Even if we were full up, we would eat that pretty much up through the year.
right, and with 560 and 562 both having that problem that I was asking about, which I think I understand now, I just wanted to make sure that as we're preparing the budget for '24, if there was something that wasn't matching up right or that we needed to change, we would know that. So
Of
that's
course,
why. I asked.
560, majority of it's that overtime, probably 85% of it's overtime is in the jail.
And
And
something,
our medical costs are paid as a percent of salary, right?
It's a flat fee per dollar per
Okay.
position, so we're
So we
roughly
don't-
$900 per month per position.
Yeah.
Because
So,
if we're short 20-something,
right, that just stays in their health insurance line, which then
Okay.
actually rolls into that whole salaries and benefits category. So while we might be overextended on overtime, it's gonna get, filled with that savings on health
okay,
insurance
so
to
it
net.
kind of compensates
We're-
that.
Towards the end of the
Try
year.
to net that category to zero,
Yeah.
probably not gonna happen, but
Everything that we have, like the health insurance and, say, food or whatever it may be, those all get rolled up at the end of the year to help
Right.
equalize 561.
But that's not being reflected here with that.
It's not being reflected in that, no. That doesn't comes into the management.
But yes,
part.
there is another line item in the budget for the certificate pay that some of that stuff comes out of in the budget and it's not reflected here.
And if I might, one more thing, we also had some this was probably set up on the original budget. We also had some amendments towards the end of the year and early in the year that probably are not reflected, especially I know we had some issues in 562 that we moved some stuff into
Yes.
that we didn't have in the original budget. So some of those amendments are not reflected in here and they should be.
and something unforeseen that they're gonna have in the next 2 months, I think, is 4 babies in the jail. And FMLA has been filed for daddies and mamas,
Employees.
employees, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
We don't-
Yeah, you're not having that, you don't think, but, so, that's gonna take extra coverage,
But it-
people out.
Care for that.
More overtime.
Corey, do you have an overall number for 560, 61, and 62 right there for year to date, since we just closed May? Does Munis give you?
I can run a,
We could look at it, yes.
I just wondered 5 months in at what the projection was. When do y'all come, Judge? When does Will and
Next week,
next week?
This week.
I think on Tuesday.
for 560 overall budget, they're at 44.8% of their budget. We're 5 months in, so
Close to being.
pretty close.
It's not, I would have not.
Well, it's 561, sure. I looked at it the other day, we were,
I'm looking at it now.
yeah, we were right on it the other day too. And,
561, we are at 39.4% of their overall budget, so,
Those are better numbers than I expected.
yeah,
and
we try to spend them,
Yeah.
that's where we have to do that part of it, so.
562, they're at 40.6%, so they're right on target for that.
Because.
All right, do we all have any other questions on this item? Okay. Thank y'all.
You are?
All right, move on to item number 5, which is review and discuss regular bills.
That's the email from Margaret Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready for her to come back, but she needs to be healthy first.
Yeah, when you're out for a while, it can be a really good thing or a really bad thing. It shows how much you were necessary or how little you were. I think in this case it's how much.
Now, Margaret really does do a great job keeping this in track and in line.
Thank you, Victor.
Am I crazy or did this format change?
It is.
It looks a little different.
Okay.
It is, because of the EFT payments, I can't create the file until y'all have approved it, because I can't just pull a check out of a list. So this is the select items to be paid report, which we've had the available to do. We're just changing that process up into EFT. I actually think this report might be a little easier, because of the blue hyperlinks and so forth.
Yeah, it's changed.
It is.
I had it a while ago and I can't find it again. What am I gonna do with it?
I need to
I'm
send it
not
to
looking
you.
for the right, what day did it come?
Wednesday, but.
Wednesday, I need to back up a
I'm
little
gonna go
further. I
ahead.
saw it earlier.
Wednesday at 2:34 p.m.
All right, I saw it earlier.
You know, I just sent it to you again.
That's all right. Mine kicked me out of the internet a while ago and I had
There.
to go back in.
Brendan's having some fun with this. He's just kicking us off.
So Brendan's messing with the internet, and we got HR messing with the annex elevator, so we get our steps in.
Yep, wellness.
Healthy.
What,
Me and Ricky were talking about
There
that
we
this
go.
morning. It's
Okay,
down
he's-
again
It
today.
is.
I
It's been
see,
down 3 times in a week.
He evidently sent a, let's say a stern email to them this morning, but there needs to be a point where, and this is bills, because the elevator's a bill, we print lots of bills, but we're gonna have to do something to press the fact that they have to do something to do a better job.
I kind of
We
feel like
paid
at
them
this
lots of money.
point that we've now hit it being in for so long that now they just got a program to go down so they can charge us service fees. That's what it feels like.
It's, I don't know, surely, did we sign off and accept that totally as a great job? You see what I'm saying? I mean,
Yes,
that's
that might
a-
be a question for Commissioner Beach.
Yeah.
What do you think that
He passed,
elevator
it
project
passed the
costs us?
inspection.
Wasn't here, I don't know.
What do you think, that elevator project?
Over $1 million probably.
Over $1 million. If we just spent $1 million on a piece of equipment for road and bridge that wouldn't function any better than that, it would have already been back at the lot.
Yeah, it's kind of a lemon, but it had issues from the very beginning with not having the right motor size.
I thought it was the there
And
was
then
something with
it had
the
to do with the
electricity
motor and the
connection
electric-
to
yes.
the building that, I don't know how they didn't know that when they started it, cause it's not like they're in one
Not
building,
like
so.
their job.
Well, that's more of a, if you designed
Yeah.
if you bid a job, then you're responsible.
Well,
to
it's just
make
like
sure it's
we
right.
didn't apparently know we needed to put some kind of HVAC issue on the top of the other elevator that went in here,
So,
which you think we would have known in the very beginning,
anyway,
but yes.
we're gonna have to address that at some point in time.
would y'all look at one, I've got a auto expense in precinct 4 from a vendor I don't know. It's a Auto Plate Pay. It's just for $970, but I just don't recognize what that is.
That might be the tags,
Is it? Is that
or it's.
a vendor that does the tag or something, or inspection, or? It's vendor number 10795.
What was the name of it again?
OTA, OTA dash plate, P-L-A-T-E.
Hey Corey, when I try to click on a hyperlink in those reports, access is denied due to program security.
That's, yeah.
You don't have access, Judge, you're just a judge.
Yeah, I got the OTA.
Show him your badge, Judge.
I'm the budget officer. It's on a need-to-know basis. You don't need to know.
It's a Pike Pass and what it looks
It's a
like.
Pike Pass. I didn't think we were paying this.
Do I
It's
own
out of
Pike
Oklahoma.
Pass?
It's the,
Well, it's a toll out of Oklahoma.
Did any of your, that might be it, one of your trucks go haul some gravel?
I don't have a truck with a Pike Pass on it.
they don't do
No.
Pike Passes anymore, they just mail us the bill like the state of
Like,
Texas
take
does.
the picture of the,
Mhm, of the
What was it
tag.
for? What was the amount?
$9.70.
That would sound correct.
So you don't have to stop any longer?
You know, they took that whole thing, so it'll read your Pike Pass or it'll take a picture and send you a deal.
Cool,
Yep, they took it out, Christmas time sometime.
okay.
They cut out the labor portion of that.
But yes, that's what it is, it is your.
And they spent all that extra money on that quality of that road.
It's your tolls for.
Yeah, they
out
did.
Oklahoma.
It's
Boy,
nice.
that's a poor excuse for a road.
You better have your seatbelt fastened.
I have to go the other way with trucks. I can't, you could do it with the gravel truck because you're heavy enough, but
Bet you did.
my other trucks, I have to go the back. Terrible.
Well, I rode the elevator in this building this morning. That was an interesting, it worked good.
I flat forgot.
Well, ours did too in the very beginning, but.
Yeah.
Here too.
I rode the elevator. And Ricky said this one here is a cable elevator, and we won't have near the problem with it as the annex, so.
That's what Brenda asked him this morning, is that elevator gonna work like ours?
And, Tanya, I've got a employee physical, is that just a delayed bill? I mean, would I have,
The only one I can think of is Price. Reagan Price, Kimbrough. He's the newest one for you, as far as I know.
and would that be just maybe, but wasn't that a few months ago?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Did he go to the CDL school?
Oh, yes.
That he had to have a DOT.
It shows
uh-huh.
what line
Okay,
item.
that's what it
And I
is.
think when we hired him, he didn't have a CDL, so.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That poor kid.
Yep.
Sure, I'll have a question.
Sure.
I really like the way the summary is on the last page of our road and bridge deal that has which line items it comes out of.
But.
How hard,
Just kidding.
how hard would it be on the layout of that if it, well, I guess maybe that is what over there. It says beside it, available budget. At the summary, it shows amount, like, I don't know, let's go to mine. I'll go back up to mine. Uh-oh, my computer just messed up. Anyway, you have a summary down at the bottom, shows what line item it comes out of. It'll say like asphalt, so much money, and then beside it, it says available budget, but that's zeroed on the one I was looking at.
Yeah.
Is it not possible to have that available budget line filled in also? So we could look, I mean, you'd have shown what's available in it at the same time?
I can look into that, I'm not sure if I can tweak that or not.
Just to see if it will actually pull from the real-time number or
Because
not.
this thing, you know, as we talked years ago, this was always supposed to be a checkbook view. You could see real time, so
Yeah,
that's why.
and you can always run your year-to-date budget, but yes, I can see. I'm gonna check right somewhere. And it may may not be pulling that because I haven't physically cut these checks, so while it's pending an encumbrance, I haven't physically cut any checks yet because they haven't been approved. This is my approval, and this is what I'm presenting for
Right.
y'all to look at.
And I'm seeing, Cheryl, in general, a Dallas County Treasurer's check for autopsies.
Yes.
How does that, why is that flowing through Dallas County?
Haven't they typically done
We used to get a lot from Terrence.
some
thought
of
it was
ours?
Tarrant.
Oh, was it Tarrant?
I don't know, that caught my eye.
I know they've been using a Dallas.
They have been using
Dallas,
Dallas.
and that was in the last, I don't know, year or so.
Is it owned by the county?
I don't know, I think it is.
I think it is,
I think
and
it
that's
is,
why
yeah.
we
Can
get the
this,
bill.
can that be a for-profit function, Melvin?
Oh, that I don't,
Or,
Not
my
sure.
question is, when they perform an autopsy at $6,450, are they making money?
I don't know.
Is that for one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's two different pricing amounts, one's 64.50 and one's 21.50.
I have a question for you. Which one of these do that hyperlink like those? Click on
Should
this one or
be
this one?
the one on the left.
I tried to do it a while ago and it pops that up.
Have you logged into
Today?
Munis? Yeah, you'll need to log in because it's taking you to Munis.
Oh, my logins on my desk, I don't have that one. It should just be the one that's saved. I have an interesting password.
Yeah, they're getting shipped over to Dallas County Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences. All from JP's.
Is that then a county hospital? Is that how Dallas operates?
That looks
I'm
like.
assuming it is.
Huh. So that'd be a whole different, really, bailiwick than just county per se, because it flowing through a hospital would be different.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for making that possible for us to, I'm looking at this real time like y'all do. I appreciate that.
You get to go look at that, really.
Mm-hmm. Any water?
That's,
Once you log in, you'll be able to.
So this, Thyssen Rupp, am I saying that elevator?
That's
Oh,
incredible.
yeah, that's incredible.
Is that just the
That's-
local vendor or
That's
is
So
it?
that's
TK.
TK.
That's TK Elevator,
Okay, okay.
yeah. That's why I go by TK, no one can say that. We paid them a lot of money. Riggs was sitting in the dark. He didn't move enough.
Mine goes off. I have to roll back
Wave your arm, yeah.
and do this, and my light comes back on.
He's actually asleep.
If I'm on the computer, it's fine, but then I'm gonna write something.
Y'all still looking?
I'm nearly through.
Okay, that's fine.
This, text line mortuary, is that another name for, didn't we select one that, but wasn't the name, they just a contractor? I've never seen text line before. Is that familiar with?
It's a good question. I don't remember.
You know where Sloan's used to be at Seymour Highway and Loop 11? That was at Sloan's,
Sloan's.
Sloan's deal. Well, now that's a, service provider to funeral homes. And that, one of the employees there was, I was seeing on a regular basis. He was telling me about the services they provided, and as just a subcontractor, but I didn't remember the name, what it was, and I just wondered if sometimes maybe they're doing it on behalf of the vendor, or.
It's a good question. We can find out because I don't know.
Let's see, Susie Hawes. This looks like the first time we've ever used text line, so it may have been a carryover, as our main vendor was not able to do it. So Courtyard Gardens, First Call, and 516. But this looks like the first time we've ever used them.
And Melvin, what would be a criminal defense, Texas criminal defense, and it says, the note comment says expert forensic.
It's probably from the capital murder stuff.
Something that
Yeah,
they analyze a special way?
They can provide experts, that organization that is dealt with for that. That's one of the things they do, is get capital experts and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that might be what that is.
Judge, where are we at with the service master bill? Is that out of our pocket right now?
It is with our insurer. TAC is working on that with Service Master directly, going back and forth with them on the bill. But yeah, we turned that over to our insurance provider, since they were gonna be the ones paying for it, so.
Is there a collective, and Cheryl and Melvin, y'all wouldn't know, but when we look at charity attorneys, I don't guess we compile a list of fees. I heard something this week about the judge told the defendant in sentencing, he was discussing the fines, and he said, now, you were represented by a public defender for a very short period of time, and then you've had private counsel since. And the judge, my take was that affected the fines and fees to an extent. Do we ever monetize the fees that come from the charity work? So let's say, I mean, do we know what they total?
Charity work.
Indigent defense.
Or
I'm sorry, I don't think of it that, okay.
It's how, that's the label.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Like Melvin used to, in your cases, did they have, there were most always a state statute fee or fine associated with, or is that all
A lot of
waived
time it
if
gets
it's public?
waived,
A lot
but
of-
there was an issue where we were not even receiving what was put on some of that for a little while. I think that Leslie's doing a better job on trying to get that together, but a lot of it gets waived. But I mean, that was never something that I dealt specifically with. I did do some challenging of some fee. Every once in a while, a fine or fee would get imposed on an indigent that was not out of our office of the public defenders. It was a different indigent case, and sometimes I think it just got by the lawyers. Sometimes that happens; they don't challenge it, so I would challenge those sometimes about that. And then we had one where they actually threw the fine out or whatever it was. But it's actually pretty complicated, some of the law on that. But the bottom line is, I think a lot of times judges just waive it on indigents. So,
is there any way, Cheryl, that you see in the 78th, 89th, and the 30th, a summary, or in CCL 1 and 2, total fines imposed
I mean,
on
we
an
can-
annual basis?
Yeah, we can pull a report on what's imposed, but if in the court order and the judge waives it, it never makes it to the court, to the district clerk's office or whatever, to that case. It's never assigned. So it's not like assigned and then it's waived. It just never even makes it there to get onto the case.
But so where does the report come from? Actually, the district clerk's office of actually what is imposed that
What's-
makes record?
Yes, I mean, it would come from there's from Odyssey, but that's what's ordered by the judge. But if the judge never orders it and waives it before it gets
Right.
finished, then we have no record of
But-
how much is not.
So just
Collected.
in 2022, the district clerk recorded how much revenue in fines imposed by a larger court.
Yeah, we'd have to pull the records on that.
But I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars?
We're looking at, it's just kind of depends. Most of the fines that are imposed in district go to the road and bridge, and I don't believe it's hundreds, I think it's probably in the tens.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
And it does go to road and bridge?
The
Or
road and
only
bridge.
the JP money?
No JP money goes to road and bridge funds. The district courts, the fines that are assigned in the district courts are split evenly between the road and bridges. JPs don't have any money that go to the road and bridge funds.
Huh, okay. But you can pull some kind of report that shows that?
Eventually, yeah, I could.
With enough time, you pull just about anything.
Why would a judge waive?
A lot of times they'll waive it just because they
They
know
know
it's never gonna be
get paid,
collected.
yeah.
And if they're gonna go on to, you know, another authority, be in
So you
prison
don't
for
spend a
years,
bunch of time chasing something that's.
Well, there's actually a law that says the judge has to do an ability to pay hearing
Right.
where they have to actually determine if this person is capable of paying at all. They can collect out of people in prison.
Sure.
They can go do it, and there's abilities to do it, and they do.
They
But
pulled
but
up.
it just depends on the judge and depends on how they do it. There's you know it can be a little complicated about that.
Well, and you could set things in motion that would cost you lots of time and there's nothing to gain. I could see where that would.
Correct.
And they can challenge their fees even after the case is over. There's all these ways for them to like do an appeal, like a way after appeal on the actual imposition of the fees, and they do that too, because what else do they have to do?
Well, and
Yeah.
that's true, because if they don't have the ability to pay, we're gonna put somebody on it.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna maybe let them sit out in jail, so that's gonna increase our sheriff time, their overtime. We're still not gonna get any cash, so we're gonna be out the money twice.
What's the old term, beating a dead horse?
Yes, can't get blood from a turnip.
Yeah, same thing.
So,
Mm.
So Jeff, to answer your question, and I just looked at one in particular, but it should be pretty relatively, and it is. It looks like we got close to, and this is district clerk and county clerk together. This is total fines collected or recorded is gonna be in the 290,000 range for 22. And fairly close to that in 21, a little bit more in 21 than what we had in 22. So each precinct gets around, depending on total collection, $70,000 to $75,000 a year on the
yeah,
fines.
I think that's about what we budgeted.
And that's gonna be about the same kind of money the JPs pull in too. That,
Possibly, let's see.
I mean, you have to be talking net money, right, Corey? I mean,
Yes,
the
I'm
total
only-
money collected is gonna be closer to probably $500,000-600,000, but
No, their total collections will be much greater than 500,000 or 600,000.
But most of the fees
But,
that go to
yeah, this
state,
is just net, I'm only
Okay.
talking road and bridge fines.
gotcha.
that revenue. So for the JPs, for 22, their fines were about 118,000 across the 5 of them. Their fees, 326, so in 22, they've only collected 444,000.
That's general fund.
Yeah, that's our general fund, so.
And that is only JPs, not the constable money included.
The constable money is likely included in that, that's in the civil side of it. The fines is not, has nothing to do with the constable. It would be rolled up into the civil fees for, the service fees would roll up into the civil for in a general fund
Yeah.
combined.
But a constable's fee is a net monies, right, to the county? Or is there state monies taken out of constable fees?
So whatever the constable service fee or charge is for that, whatever we collect from that is what is the county's portion.
Mm-hmm. 60, 75?
It just depends on the type of service.
Yeah.
We ready to move on to ARPA? Okay. Item number 6, receive update on ARPA projects and funding. Cheryl sent out a spreadsheet, I think about an hour ago, so should have that at the top here.
That way y'all don't have to look for it.
So
Okay.
everything in the bold at the top section those are what has already been paid out.
Those are our, let's see, yes, in the top section, that's either what's either been paid out or we know there's a PO been issued to pay that money out.
And what is the money? For example, WF Alliance Charlie Ferris sculpture.
We have not paid that at all. We are still pending a signed signature on that.
But is that the money at the bottom on line 28? Amount allocated, I guess.
The amount allocated by the court is what has already passed in a court order to allocate out, and we have not.
And is that summing, Cheryl, to 24,699,000?
That's correct.
And so that's leaving a balance of 1,113,000 unallocated?
That is correct, because the Hatton Hammond project did fall through, and we did have a couple of other allocations that we did, like we added this year's service fees for the constables.
And
Couple of things.
Judge, I'd certainly like us to consider a $500,000 towards the possibility of that way station.
And then, the towers look like they're going to come in more than what was already allocated by the court. The court has allocated 2.719. And with all of the contracts and the court orders, it looks like it's gonna be closer to 3 million, a little over 3 million. So it's gonna need another $366,000 to bring that to completion at its current contract. Now, one of these court orders did say to pull some from contingencies last year, but I don't see any need to pull from contingencies if we have ARPA money available. That doesn't make sense.
We need to spend the ARPA money
Yeah.
We need to spend the ARPA money.
as
So-
quickly as possible.
Correct. We need to get contracts to obligate that all as well, just in case.
There's clawback.
Well, currently, our ARPA funding is not on the table as part of the clawback, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be in the future if we don't obligate it. So,
You said the difference on the tower's 366?
yeah, 366, 117.86.
And
Down
where,
there on-
Melvin, where are we with those agreements?
It's
There's
on
a
39 of that spreadsheet.
There is a holdup right now in, we're trying to figure out, if we have to go back and amend the contract because the payment schedule has us paying for something that hasn't been delivered yet. And, as Cheryl, brought to our attention, it's disputed in law, but that could be considered a extension of the county's credit or prepayment, which we're statutorily prohibited from doing.
Yeah.
So we may have to amend that contract. And until we get that figured out, everything's on hold with the towers.
Yeah, for the towers. I believe, we're working on contracts for Charlie Ferris and the ambulances as well. Those haven't been signed, but I do believe those are in the works.
I have not seen anything on the ambulance thing at all, so.
And I got.
Because there was some talk about that, about getting me something, but there's nothing on that.
I got information earlier this week or late last week from Rebecca McCain over at Electra Hospital. I think I just haven't forwarded it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I saw that. I know that the WF Alliance at one point thought that they were gonna come back and ask for additional funds from the 150, but then they never actually did. Cause I think their cost came in higher than anticipated.
That was on the
Is that the
statute.
Charlie Ferris thing?
Well, there was supposed to be a lot of private donors in that also.
Yeah, I know, and then she said, we may come back, but I haven't seen any more on that.
She met with Commissioner Beecham earlier, I think on Monday of this week. So maybe when he gets back next week, visit with him about it. I don't know if any dollars were discussed, but
What what is bond supervision?
So that's the bond supervision office that was created under Kirk Wolf. Those are the folks that monitor the ankle monitors for pre-adjudication. That's the one we started. Now, when we first started it, we kind of crossed budget years, and so more got allocated to it than was necessary, and now it's been wrapped into its own department, and the general fund's already absorbed its costs. So we got a little bit of savings on that, but it's 2 people, and they're supposed to be monitoring those, because you can't use CSCD guides, because only 10% of CSCD can be used for non-related, and CSCD is post-adjudication, so this is our efforts to monitor, because otherwise no one was monitoring the ankle bracelets for Anthony Patterson or Dean Godfrey or those kinds of guys out awaiting trial. Although I'm not sure how the battery goes to it if we're monitoring, but you know, stuff happens. But yes, this is our effort to monitor those so that we don't have something happen and go, well, why weren't you monitoring those? Because no one was monitoring those bracelets.
Remind me, what's the City of Wichita Falls water project?
Oh, the City of Wichita Falls water project. Okay, so that was the very first thing we did with ARPA. They came to us and said, we would like you to put in, you know, because at that time, under the interim rule, there was very little that the county could do with our $25.6 million.
Right.
But we could do a water line. We don't do water. The city was doing that park off of, that new
Now, East
commercial
Town.
park.
The
Yes.
industrial park.
The industrial
Yeah,
park.
okay, I recall now.
Midwestern Parkway, what,
So-
Midwestern Extension?
The
Yes.
goal
Start with the
here was
industrial
we would put in $1 million for water, and there was supposed to be a quid pro quo for the Hatton Hammond project, and they would put in money to do roads, because that's how we could use ARPA and still basically build a road. We did not secure the contract at the time that we did the water line, and they balked, and they are not doing it.
Okay. I
So
recall
that's
it
where the
now.
Hatton Hammond.
I'd forgot what it was.
They're not
I-
spending the million?
They spent their $1 million, it's done.
Okay.
We gave them their check, that the money's done, the water's line done, but they didn't come back and do their
Oh,
side of the
okay.
water done.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's typical.
we gave them $1 million. I do know that they plan to possibly come ask us for money towards the building for the city, county health
They
district.
did already.
Well, they want to come again because they had the water line burst and their deductible for insurance was $250,000 and it was millions of dollars of damage. I have already told Jessica, I said, well, you can bring it to the court. I don't know what they're gonna do. I wouldn't count on it, but we already gave you $1 million for free, basically. But that's up to y'all. But yes, I do understand that they plan to come ask for funds for that building. It is not our building,
No.
so.
It's not. They didn't help us with the 30th district flood.
The duo authentication,
Yes, so that was a project brought to us by George and Andrew for duo authentication.
Oh,
We spent like
okay,
$87,000. I'm not sure where it went after that because we spent the money. And I know Andrew had called me asking me for a credit card for prepays, and I said, that's never gonna happen.
What was dual authentication?
And I'm not sure what it's even on.
Well, we were gonna
Brendan,
do it
do
for
you
the
know
whole
what
system.
that test was?
Yeah.
It's a two-factor authentication method that we
Yeah.
can implement, but it's not what we need and it's not the direction we'll end up going. We do need to implement one, but not that way.
And it was designed to be for computer login, for
Right.
cell phones?
It
What
can
was
be
it?
used multiple different ways in different applications, but in the end, we need to go a different route to get the same thing, but not that way.
Yeah, it basically was $87,000 that went nowhere.
are you think you'll do something here, Brendan, with?
Yeah, we're looking into it currently.
Okay.
To who? Who to go to?
I'd have to go pull the vendor on that.
The problem I've seen with it when I've had to use it is it really slows things down.
Yeah.
Because it seems like you get the code on your phone, and a lot of times it may be 5 or 10 minutes before it comes, and you're sitting there waiting to log in. That doesn't work very good.
If properly implemented in the way we want to go, it'll be an app on your phone that generates a code. So you
Right.
won't actually be waiting for
I
anything. That you'll just open up the app, the code will be there, and you enter it in. So you won't
Yeah.
have to wait for a text message.
So I have one, mine is a Google Authenticator that I have to use when I'm using the admin side of Munis. Anytime I want to, log in and fix user access or whatever, then I have to put in this additional code. It's on an app, it comes up really quickly, it changes probably every 60 seconds,
And
but,
there's a lot of times, my cell phone will work in my office. I have to walk out to get it to. get
now
it
some
to-
of these will come on an app that you can put on your desktop as well,
Yeah.
not just on your phone, so it just depends.
TCDRS.
Well, am I seeing this right, Cheryl, that we didn't allocate courtroom technology?
So courtroom technology money was part of the building construction, so no, there wasn't anything allocated specifically for it, it's part of the 10.6 that we
Okay.
did for overall
Okay.
construction.
Okay.
And if, just so that so that all of us have an idea moving forward, the ongoing expenses that when ARPA money runs out, the court will have to either end those things or figure out a way to pay for them. It's gonna be bond supervision.
Bond supervision, we've already absorbed that in the 23 budget, so we're already paying
Already
for it. The
premium
one
pay.
that, premium pay is going to be the big one.
Okay.
That is $3.8 million over the course of that, so it's gonna probably be about $1 million a year we're going to have to absorb. And I know this is something Commissioner Fincannon beat home when we did it.
I beat the drum a lot.
You did. But that's how we get, because those raises, we're not gonna be able to take those back. It's just not gonna happen.
Well, you can try it.
I mean, you can, but,
59
but then
employees
those
short.
positions are still not gonna be competitive. We use that money to make the positions competitive on positions we can't fill now. So if we were to claw that back, I can't
The
even imagine.
fallacy though with Mickey's deal was to raise taxes then instead of raising taxes 2 years from now to compensate it. I don't wanna pay the taxes for
Sure.
3 years.
I didn't.
Yeah, that wasn't-
But I
that
never,
wasn't- he
but
was-
I never said raise taxes. That's not true.
Well,
that wasn't the fallacy.
No, but that was the argument though, as consideration of spending ARPA money for it. In lieu of not being able to hire 29 people, now we're at 45 people we can't hire because we don't have salaries.
Right.
My whole deal
So
was
the only thing
there's.
there to take into consideration is, at what point do we start absorbing this into our general budget? Do we do it a little bit at a time for the next 3 years, or do we wait until 26 and absorb it all at once? So that's.
Well,
It probably should.
work me the math though, Cheryl, on why you say $1 million.
It's 3.8, but there's probably gonna be, I'd say 3.8 over 3 years, cause it's not all the positions, it's just a portion of the,
It's not 3.8 over, it's 1.5 essentially over our 2.3.
Well,
because
is
we
that, is
started,
that our overtime costs? Is that rolled into that?
we have 1.5
No,
two that we
broke
spent
that
in
out.
regular salary, 12.2 in overtime, and some part-time people work 15,000 or something, yeah.
Isn't it 3.8 over 6 years?
That's the max we can do because it's capped at $25,000 per person, so per position, so yeah, it's 3.8 was the max that we can do, but we're still
But
gonna have
you
to
broke
absorb.
overtime differently, so it's not eroded by overtime.
Not yet, but it will be.
How, but didn't we set that up to,
It is a supplement. It was one of those weird things that, Will tried to do with last year with, but it is a set amount supplement per person. There's a cap at 25,000 per,
ARPA rule?
yes.
Okay.
So to sum up,
But by the time we take that dollar amount and we add it to their regular salary, that will then be applicable to overtime and the increase in benefits.
When it becomes regular.
Right.
Yeah.
The tide raises the boats.
That's
Yeah.
correct. So it's going to be more than that.
so to put a nice bow on everything, we've got 18.5 million of ARPA money that's been court ordered but hasn't been paid out yet. and we've got $1.1 million of ARPA money that the court has not decided how to spend yet.
Right, and if we
So-
go ahead and allocate the 366 that is needed to bring the towers into complete, that'll leave us about a little less than 750,000
And-
that the court needs to allocate.
And Judge, I would certainly want to, at the appropriate time on the agenda, make that motion to absorb that remainder towards that function.
Well, and that's part of why I wanted to have this
And
discussion,
I know
so the whole
Commissioner
court would
Beecham
know.
also has a
Right, that's why I wanted us to
request,
have this
I know.
What is
discussion.
it for, do you know?
that big road project he needs to do.
Oh, is he wanting to do that on ARPA?
He wants to, if there are some available ARPA funds, I know he would,
Okay.
but I know that
Which
that is.
project, Sheriff? I'm sorry.
Old State Road.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, for
Okay.
Wall Creek area.
I would like
Quail
to
Ridge,
put any,
well.
any remainder into water lines. Because anywhere we can to extend water lines, I think we're better off.
The only question
do that.
there is it's gotta be complete by 12/31/26, so
Yep.
whatever you choose to do with it, we gotta get it complete, so.
So what I'm hearing is that the court's going to have plenty of opportunity to discuss how we're going to spend that
Well,
$1.1 million.
and my deal is parking it in the, way station just simply because that is potentially a revenue generator in a very lacking area for us that we could shore up potentially. And it is a $1 million revenue. We are a picture of Mitchell County roughly, and it is a $1 million take for Mitchell County,
Per year.
which wouldn't make us whole, but it would close the hole really
On the
well
salary deal.
on what
Yeah.
what we spend to collect
Yeah.
those monies today is way upside down. And if we could add that without adding cost, which shouldn't be cost, then they're fixed costs for us, that shouldn't change anything and throw $1 million annually back at the hole.
Right. The only thing in here that I'm gonna preface is that I haven't gotten the breakdown from Harper Perkins to determine what of our construction is lost revenue and what is one of the other categories. If I have to use the majority for lost revenue, we may not be able to do one of those, because it's gonna have to come from that other pot, so that's the only other caveat, is I am waiting.
Are you saying that building would have to be lost revenue?
Yes, his probably would be lost revenue, a water line is specific, so we can use the other funds, but I need the breakdown from Harper Perkins, and I am still waiting on it, it's been over 3 weeks.
Well, the only reason I bring up that, I'm telling you, if we got 130,000 left after everybody else, let's throw the 130,000 back into water lines, because water lines is still are probably our best.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that at all.
The challenge here, folks, is when we supplemented our overtime, we had intentions that maybe conditions would change during the interim and we would go in a different direction, and we are not. That is not the case. So
You're correct.
that's something we're gonna have to absorb, and you gotta remember, we're still capped at what we can do.
Right, that is true.
So we
And-
don't want that, we don't wanna slam into that as a dadgum wall when we get there. That's something that's gonna be planned for.
And I do think that there was a lot of that there would be increased revenues from U.S. Marshals and out-of-county
And
prisoners.
it's not.
And I have not seen any of that, I haven't
Yeah.
seen an increase in the rates come through, I know that that's something they were working on, I haven't seen it.
Right now,
Has our
it's just-
yearly income gone up or down in that, in the last year over prisoners for other US Marshals and?
Now,
I don't
well,
look.
now, Cheryl, I don't think from what I've read in the contract that can, under contract, change until June or July of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the
I know they were negotiating that, but we're in
We're
June,
in
so, but we can control what we charge for our out-of-county, not US Marshals, a lot quicker, and that rate is very low for us. Maybe like $65 a day.
It
That
doesn't, it
needs to
doesn't
go
cover
up.
cost. It doesn't ever cost us that.
We're in jail.
And Melvin,
Most counties, the minimum I've seen is 85 to
Never
higher.
Yeah.
We need to raise that.
yes, I'm with you. And Melvin, that is something that we could, or you could assign to, say, Jonathan Elzey to standardize, because I bet you there is a big difference today in our out-of-county interlocal agreements that exist from start to finish. They're probably every one of them different, but if we could
Yeah, I think they're all done
uniform-
at different times and
Naturally.
everything
Naturally.
else. Yeah, exactly. There's
We're on our
certain
25th amendment.
Yeah, there's,
But I would sure advocate for
sure.
you using somebody like that to get that expedited to do what Cheryl's saying, because there's plenty of use occurring, and, you know, go ahead and put it in front of other commissioners' courts to approve and get back to us and unify them at the same time.
One thing we don't wanna do is get out there a couple of years down the road and face a voter-approved tax increase, because I don't think it would come. And you talk about throw you in a tizzy now, that would not
Well, they're
be
set on a
good.
cap amount for the year.
We do need to be thinking in those terms
We've got to
for
avoid
the
that.
end of 3 years from now.
You're exactly right.
Because the part that Barry drives home is that you today only have, under all normal circumstances, about $2 million worth of raise before you're at the voters.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, and who knows where our appraisals are headed. That's that's a tremendous,
Yeah.
if we went through
And the $100,000 homestead,
if we went through an appraisal shop, well, that's not gonna happen, I don't guess.
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, yesterday I had a realtor tell me that, just giving me an example, the comps that came in on a particular, this was a $350,000 facility or home, the comps came in underneath the appraisal district's value. And that is an oddity to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly something from running up against the cap, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not the voter approval cap, but the actual
Statutory,
statutory, constitutional cap.
The voter approval deal would be
Yeah.
Yeah.
a pretty tough deal right now.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard to
One
solve.
thing I did notice though is that they're predicting now that the Fed's about through with the interest rate increase for a while, which should help us on, just in real estate in general. Right now, I think it's slowed down a lot because the interest rate deal's gone up, but if we keep going up, it's gonna make it tougher. If you've got movement in that industry, your appraisals tend to be better than if you don't. So that's good news,
Yes.
but who knows how long that goes
Because
on.
Americans
I gotta-
can't stomach.
Folks, I'm just a worrier.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
just what I do. And I look down the road and say, how are we gonna do this? And,
Well,
we don't wanna get to the point. I feel a lot better making a plan for 3 years from now than I do waiting until it's a month away. We gotta come pull a rabbit out of that.
And the court does allocate that ARPA every single year, so while we have already allocated, we'll still have to decide whether or not you're going to give it in 24, 25,
Yeah.
26. I mean, but we do have to obligate it all by 24, so really we're kinda on that.
But the one thing we know for sure is we're gonna run that jail, and we're gonna run it to the standards that the state sets up, and it's gonna cost X number of dollars to do that.
Yeah.
And we kinda
You
set
can't
the,
change it.
yeah, you're not going to, I mean,
No.
that's one known thing. I mean, I guess we can quit paving roads and we can do a lot of things, but one thing we're not gonna do is run that jail other than by state standards, that's
Right.
gonna
Yeah, I
happen.
mean,
Our really only leeway is to not take out of county or US Marshal prisoners, but anything that's within us, we're liable for.
We're gonna do it.
yeah, truly, when it all comes down to it,
The
the
jail.
courts running and
And the
keeping the
jail.
jail running,
Yeah,
um,
that's gonna happen.
are going to happen, so.
And, I mean, there are some places you cut it, the problem is that the things you cut are very small in comparison to those,
Sounds like the federal government.
what I call fixed costs, basically. So, anyway,
All right.
I'll continue to worry about that.
Yeah, keep worrying about it, keep bringing it up to help.
Yeah, we'll
Just worry about it.
move on.
Um, Any other questions,
I
comments?
had a
on-
question for Cheryl and I forgot it on this ARPA. It's called old age, Judge.
I don't know about that.
You ain't got a clue. It's coming.
Something she said made me think of something to ask, but anyway.
As soon as this gavel hits.
This is
you'll
very
remember
good,
it.
Cheryl.
Just
This
email
helps
me.
a very workable sheet that kind of sets out,
Okay, anybody, anything else? Going once, going twice? It is 11:40.